Okay, great. So, hi everybody. Welcome to the EM Grants info session. My name is Drew Worden, and today I'm going to be going over the EM Grant application process. I'm going to turn on a screen share here and walk you all through the application. So some of you may have already seen this part of the page, but what I'm going to do is just walk you through what the application looks like, address some kind of common misconceptions or mistakes maybe that students make when they're applying for grants, and then show you some resources you can go to improve your own grant application. Okay, so here we go. If you haven't seen this page before, this lists all of our EM grant winners going back for like the last 9 to 10 years. So it's great to scroll through this. You might see some faces you recognize. Great to read about the projects, see what sort of projects have been funded in the past. And then, especially if you know some of these people, it's a great idea to reach out to them and ask for their advice, what they learned through the process, maybe have them read your application. It's a great thing to be able to do. So if we go to Learn How, applying for an EM grant, our deadlines are all listed down here. So the application's due next Monday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So give you the full day there. I want to point this out. This is at the very bottom. This is going to be important later. The EM grant budget template. We have one template that we like everybody to use, and this just helps the adjudicators really see the similarities and the differences between the different grant applications. So please, please, please use this budget template here. The application is right next to our deadline, April 13th. We just click Apply Online. And then this is our application. I strongly recommend that you don't draft your application on this part of the web page, but that you copy and paste the questions into a Word document. We've had students before who have lost kind of their application materials before. So best to copy and paste the questions over into a Word document and draft everything there. So this is all kind of basic contact information, but you can click through the whole application without writing anything so you can see what the questions are. First, this is the project description question. So this part is the most important part, I would say. Specifically, these first two fields, describe your project. For a committee that maybe has never met you and maybe doesn't know anything about your work, this is going to be where they learn about that. So these two sections usually take the most thought and kind of wordsmithing when you're preparing your grant application. So this first one, your project in the length of a tweet. I realize now tweets are more than 140 characters, but do the old version of the tweet. So this is basically your pitch, your one-liner about what your project is. And then the next question, you can get more specific and into details about what all that includes. Your partners and collaborators, this means if you're working with other NEC musicians that are involved in your project or other collaborators outside of NEC, let the committee know who they are and what their roles are going to be. Don't just list the names, but specify what their roles are. What makes your project entrepreneurial? This question is deliberately vague. We know that word entrepreneurship means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so we're encouraging you to use this section as a way to describe what it means to you and how it applies to your project. So is your project providing value to other people? Is it providing value to you and your own career? It's likely doing some combination of both, and this is a great place to articulate how it's doing that. The marketing and documentation plan, these are 200 to 300 word responses. Share an analysis of the market or the community you're entering and how you'll distinguish your project. In other words, what other people are doing similar work, or who's doing exactly the same work, or who has parts that are the same, but parts that are really different. You should identify some of those, and you should describe how your project is going to be noticeably different from those projects. You want to show the committee here that you have a general awareness of the market that you're entering. So for example, if you wanted to start a string quartet with a rock drummer, you would want to look up what other string quartets with rock drummers already exist, or string trios with rock drummers, or classical and rock combination groups. You'd want to have an awareness of what that looks like. And maybe you'd be surprised to find out that there's 10 groups that already exist in Boston. So you're going to have to rethink how yours is going to be different and find a new space in that area. That's all hypothetical, of course. I don't know how many string trios plus rock drummer groups there are here in Boston. Who is your target audience? So if you think of your market analysis as this big umbrella that's kind of what the field or the area looks like that you're looking to enter, the target audience is who are you aiming your publicity towards? In other words, who are you hoping is going to engage or consume your project? So you want to use demographic information here, and you want to describe what that audience looks like. So do not write, my target audience is music lovers everywhere. We really want everybody to come. Usually, we actually don't want everybody to come. For example, is your concert going to be a kids concert? Are children under 10 welcome to come? Maybe, maybe not. If it is a kids concert, you're going to publicize this project in a different way than if it's a concert for adults that are, say, 18 to 30, or 30 to 60, or 60 and over. You're going to publicize your event or project or product in a totally different way depending on who your target audience is. So it's important that you think about who your target audience is deeply and are able to describe them in this section here. And then, like I said, how are you going to publicize your project? So if you're putting on a kids concert, you're actually not publicizing your concert to the kids, right? You'd be publicizing it to their parents, or if it's in a school, you'd be publicizing the project to the teachers and the administrators that would be responsible for bringing you into the school to present with the kids. So these three questions are all kind of linked together and sequenced if you think big picture, kind of down to a very narrow and specific description of how you're going to publicize. And in that section, you should be as specific as possible. So if you're taking a print media strategy, describe what that looks like. If you're taking a digital strategy, describe what that looks like. What social media channels are you going to use? How are people going to learn about your work? It's impossible to be too specific when you're answering this question. So fight the urge to get really lofty and just be really specific and concrete with what your plans are here. Okay, so if we click to the next page, goals and impact. These goals should be really short, like one sentence, and they should also be measurable. So an example of a goal that would not be good to put in a grant application and that's not measurable is, I want to reimagine the classical music experience. That's great. That's one that we hear a lot, actually. That's a nice vision, and that can be a nice mission, but it's not a great goal because there's no way for you or anybody else to know if you achieved that after your project is complete. So one way to make that measurable would be, I want to reimagine the classical music experience by making it more accessible to people in this geographic location or to people with this income level. And I want to do that through X number of concerts or events. So usually the way to make it measurable is to attach some sort of number to it. Another example could be, I want to grow my audience. Well, that's great. Everybody wants to grow their audience, right? But be specific and make it measurable. I want to double the size of my audience based off of my year one numbers. So year one, I had 50. This year, I'm going for 100 at this concert, or whatever they are. Find a way to make it measurable. And then project impact. What benefits and or growth will your audience experience as a result of being involved with your project? So this is not always the most concrete section to describe because we don't always know exactly what the audience experience is going to be. We can anticipate what we hope it's going to be and plan for it, but we won't know for sure unless, say, you poll the audience after your event. But it's important for you to pretend you're an audience member when you're writing this section. Put yourself in their shoes. You sit where they're going to sit, or you walk through the installation the way they're going to do it, or if you're developing a product, you pretend to be the consumer and see what their experience is going to be like. And it's important for you to describe the impact of your project on them here. So this takes a really empathetic approach where you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and see what their experience is like. Work samples. So a lot of people ask me, like, how do I choose a work sample? I have a lot of different ways to show my work, whether through video or like a visual portfolio. How do I narrow it down and choose? So you should choose what best represents your work as it relates to this project, and you should lead with that. So if it's a performance, don't put the full 15-minute video on YouTube that includes you walking out on stage and tuning your instrument and like adjusting the music stand for the first minute and a half before you play a section. The very first thing a committee sees should be the very best work that you have to offer. So edit that video down, find like the 90 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes that is like really, really amazing, something you're really, really proud of, and lead with that. Next section includes a project timeline. So you should create a PDF and upload it here as an attachment. And this should be broken down month by month. So if your project is going to launch, say, in December of 2020, reverse engineer that, right? December 2020 up here, and then work your way backwards to the present. And what are your tasks going to be each month? This shows the committee what your thinking looks like. And for you, you're clarifying your own thinking as the project leader about how you're going to achieve these goals that you have set out for yourself. And then project budget. Please use that budget template that I showed you at the beginning that's on the EM Grants website. Really, really important. We're going to look at that again in a second, but you should show all of your income and you should show all of your expenses. And if you've already done a project and you already have some income, base those numbers off of real numbers, ones that you're already using. If you haven't made any money from your project yet, this should be anticipated numbers. So for example, how many tickets are you hoping to sell to your event? And then what's your total revenue going to be in that line? So if you're hoping to sell 50 tickets, how much are you going to sell the tickets for? You should determine all of that, include all of those numbers and all those specifics in your budget to show the committee your way of thinking around this. And I'll go over real quickly at the end here. I'll go show you what the budget looks like so we can get into it. And then if you have any additional supporting documents down here on the bottom, you can do that. So if it's past concert programs or you have some great publicity that you want to share, your music's been written up in a newspaper, or you have another video or a website that you think is really important, you can add that stuff here. If you have a large portfolio that you want to share, throw it all in a Dropbox or into Google and just include the link to that folder here so that people can see. But just remember to keep it concise and put what's most important for a committee to see. And then that's it. The last page is just signing and checking the boxes that say you're gonna do what you're supposed to do and you give us permission to publicize about you and share your cool work. So that's the application in a nutshell. I want to show you another resource real quickly that I think would be helpful, and this is called the EM Guidebook. So necmusic.edu/em/guidebook. There's a ton of free PDFs on here that cover a lot of topics: job search, money and funding, career basics, marketing and promotion, recording. It goes on and on and on. I want to look in the finance section. There's a section on grant writing. There's another video I've done. If you want to go more in depth to grant writing, this is beyond just the EM Grants program, but you could check out that presentation. But I want to show you this workshop writing and budget samples from this workshop that I led. So these are a few writing samples that show the process of wordsmithing, which means maybe your first draft of the project description, how you go from that first draft to really trim the fat, get to what's essential in it, and get to this third or fourth draft where you finally have something that you could put in front of a committee. So you could check that stuff out on your own. You'll see the differences. Mostly it's how do you put as much information as possible into as concise of a form as possible. That's why grant writing is, or one way that grant writing is a little different from other ways that we write in academia. Really, really want to be concise and clear. So I'll let you read that on your own, but I wanted to show you these budgets real quick. This is the incomplete version that has a little frowny emoji, and then down here we have the complete version, just so you can see back and forth. But this template is what the EM grant budget template looks like. So you see at the top, you have your earned income here, ticket sales, admissions, program class fees, sale of work, other. Again, this is a template, so you can customize these line items. If some don't apply to you or you want to add others, you're welcome to do that. Any line that has a number in it, even if that number is 0, should have some sort of description why. So if you're not selling any tickets to your concert because your concert's going to be free, that's great. But you should put $0 in ticket sales, and you should write in the notes and comments that you're giving your concert away for free. So you can see that down here on the bottom. We have descriptions for every line item, and then show the committee how you got to those numbers. So look at this personnel expenses area for artist honoraria. We have $4,000 written there. Don't just write $4,000, break it down. So you have an artist team of 4 and you're each gonna pay them $1,000. This is an honorarium for the duration of the project, and it represents a 10% increase from last year's work together. That's great. You just want to be as specific as possible. So budget template here, you can scroll through this and really get a sense of what a good budget looks like and what not a good budget looks like. If you have never written a grant before, my recommendation is actually to start with your budget. So if you have a clear idea already of what your project is, but you're not sure how to get about finishing the grant application or starting the grant application, I recommend you start with the budget and then go back into the application and start outlining your answers here. The budget is going to force you to make some decisions that I think are really important and really helpful. And so sometimes applicants can get lost if they start in the narrative section where they start describing their project. All of a sudden they have like 500 words written. It's not within the word limit of 300. They haven't thought about the money, what they actually need the money for specifically. So I think starting with the budget is great, and then you can work your way through the application with some bullet point answers and then flesh it out to a narrative. I should also mention that it's important that you meet with somebody from the EM team before you submit this application. So you're welcome to set an advising with me where you send me a draft of your application and your budget, and we'll go over it together. You can also meet with my colleague, Annie Phillips. I'll also let you know the two of us aren't on the committee, so we don't decide who gets the money and who doesn't. We're just here to help you get the best grant application possible. So you should feel good about reaching out to us for advice. The committee is NEC faculty and staff, so they are already in your corner. They're rooting for you, right, because they work here at NEC, but they do have to make a hard decision about who is going to win funding and who is not. And that's their job, and it's your job to clearly articulate your work, why you need the funding, and why you're the right person to bring this project to life. So this is the written part of the application, and then after you submit this, there's going to be an initial review, and then the committee is going to invite finalists to make a 3-minute pitch. And normally that pitch happens in person. You come in live and have a discussion with the committee. But given the situation we're all in now with remote learning, that's probably going to be a 3-minute video that you'll get to make on your own and then submit. So it will be asynchronous. It won't be a live session, and there won't be a Q&A involved. But if you make it to finals, you'll hear more instructions about that from me. Okay, so that is the EM Grants program in a nutshell. If you have more questions, please review the website and feel free to get in touch with myself or my colleague, Annie Phillips, anytime. All right, thanks and good luck.